Hello everyone, you're watching the Oathsworn Eye weapon review. This is an event specific weapon, so once the event is over, you won't be able to get it again. And whether you're thinking of using it for Yae Miko and other Catalyst users, let's find out if it's worth it. I'll be reviewing for you its base attack stat, secondary stat, and weapon ability. And without further ado, let's get into it. 4-star Catalyst can have a base attack stat of either 41, 42, or 44. In some cases, a 4-star weapon can have 45 base attack, but there's been no Catalyst with this base attack stat so far. Anyways, taking a look at the Oathsworn Eye's base attack stat of 44, and this is the highest base attack a 4-star Catalyst can have. Don't look down on the small difference between the different base attacks at level 1, because the difference grows a lot more at higher levels. At level 90, the difference between each base attack stat is about 55. That means the difference between a base attack 44 weapon and a base attack 41 weapon is 111 base attack. Adding in any attack percent modifiers, and that difference grows even larger. By the way, for those wondering, the difference between a base attack 45 weapon and a base attack 41 weapon is 166 attack. Anyways, overall, the base attack of the Oathsworn Eye is the highest in its class, so that's a great start for the weapon. Next, let's take a look at its secondary stat, attack percent. Attack percent is the most versatile and applicable secondary stat. While damage bonuses such as physical damage or crit damage bonuses will give more damage overall, attack percent is a lot less strict with its requirements. Attack percent is a guaranteed buff that's hassle-free. This is why, unless I'm going for a specific kind of build or my crit rate is over 70%, I prefer attack percent over other secondary stats, especially if I want to deal consistent damage. The Oathsworn Eye at level 1 has a secondary stat of 6% attack bonus. This is the lowest a 4-star attack percent bonus can go. It's not fair to judge the weapon on this outright though, because of the way miHoYo balances their weapons. Usually the higher base attack stat means the lower the secondary stat bonus. We can take other weapons for example. The Royal Grimoire has a similar base attack stat of 44 and a secondary attack stat of 6%. Going to the lower base attack stat of 42 like the Frostbearer, and the secondary attack stat is 9%. And then finally going one lower to a base attack stat of 41 like the Eye of Perception in Dodoko Tales, and the secondary attack stat is 12%. At level 90, the attack percent bonuses turn into 27.6%, 41.3%, and 55.1% respectively. Adding this bonus onto the base attack stat, and they're surprisingly even with a small gap in between. This doesn't mean the basic attack stat is useless however, because once we factor in the bonuses from artifacts, there is once again a significant difference between the different base attacks. Overall, the secondary attack percent stat of the Oathsworn Eye is a definite bonus that lets the user deal consistently more damage than other weapons. This helps offset the lack of damage increase in the weapon's ability that we'll talk about now. The Oathsworn Eye's ability at rank 1 increases energy recharge by 24% for 10 seconds after using an elemental skill. Don't forget though that this is an event weapon, so it's very easy to get it up to R5, at which point it will increase energy recharge by 48% instead, so I'm going to exclusively talk with that number in mind. Going back to the ability overall, speaking frankly, compared to other 4-star Catalyst weapon abilities such as on the map of Mare or the Widsith, it's quite lacking. The only advantage of this ability is the extra energy you get for ults. After all, when you use a skill, a ton of energy orbs are generated, and with that extra 48% energy recharge, it's like getting your ults 50% faster. But like all weapon abilities, not every character is suitable for it. There are 9 playable Catalyst characters, and of them, Sacrificial Fragments works much better with Sucrose, so that rules her out. In the same way, there are also better weapons for Klee such as Dodoko Tales, same with Ningguang. And because this weapon ability works off the elemental skill, we also need to take into account elemental skill cooldown. Kokomi and Barbara both have very long elemental skill cooldowns, so that rules them out too. And of the remaining few, Lisa's skill also has a holding cooldown that is quite long, so if you're planning to use Lisa's hold skill, that rules her out as well. And that finally leaves us with Mona, Yae Miko, and Yanfei. Out of all the Catalyst users, this weapon ability suits only 3 characters. And even with the great base attack stat and secondary attack percent stat, if you don't have any of these 3 characters, I wouldn't really bother leveling this weapon up. On the other side, if you do have these characters, let's now talk about how to effectively use the Oathsworn Eye. First of all, this weapon heavily emphasizes a burst heavy playstyle. The extra energy recharge paired with the high base attack and secondary attack percent stat lets you burst quicker and for relatively high damage. If you're constantly running out of energy for these characters, then I would highly recommend this weapon. And while the weapon ability does lose a little bit of instant damage, being able to burst faster means that your DPS is higher overall. There is one scenario, however, where the disadvantage of this weapon ability is instead turned into an advantage of it. That's if you're using the Emblem of Severed Fate set. This set converts energy recharge into elemental burst damage, which means that 1, now you get to burst faster, and 2, you're not missing out on the damage boost that other weapon abilities can give. It's a shame though that Mona and Yanfei both have artifact sets that more suit them. Don't get me wrong, this weapon still works for them, but it's just not a perfect match. As for Yae Miko, with her short skilled cooldowns, high energy cost of 90, and insane burst damage potential, this weapon is perfectly tailored for her, especially if you're using the Severed Fate set on her. Even if you're not using the Severed Fate set with how Yae Miko is built, this weapon is still the most ideal weapon for her. So to basically summarize what we went over, the Oathsworn Eye has a high base attack and secondary attack percent stat. This lets the catalyst hit harder and more consistently compared to other catalysts. The only caveat to this is the very niche weapon ability that limits the characters that work well with this weapon. Of all 8 catalyst users, I would only recommend this weapon on Mona, Yanfei, and Yae Miko. And out of those 3, this weapon best suits Yae Miko and her burst intensive playstyle. So in conclusion, if you're using those 3, and especially Yae Miko, I definitely recommend this weapon. Anyways guys, that just about wraps things up. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.